Good morning, everyone. My name is Riley Rosebee, and today we're going to be looking at the automated slash autonomous industrial revolution that I kind of see starting to unfold. Now, part of the reason I'm putting this presentation together, number one, is to help me on my own kind of learning process and journey, right? If I have to talk about these names, talk about these trends, I should really understand what's going on. Number two, that said, this is a very new area of interest for me. I don't necessarily have the technical experience, so I'm not going to be able to get super in the weeds with what each company does. This is primarily looking to understand the broad trend that is this next generation of an industrial revolution. We're not necessarily looking at stock-specific assets. I use a lot of stock-specific charts to kind of talk with the thesis, but again, this is not a recommendation to buy or sell individual securities. This is just me trying to understand the landscape that is taking shape. So let's take a step back. The Industrial Revolution from the 18th and 19th century led humans from the farm to the factory. It's pretty much what we got. This is a beautiful depiction of it. You know, we see our nice little cozy homestead on the farm with all of our family, and we get transported into the city where life begins to change. So these were some of the technological breakthroughs that occurred during the Industrial Revolution that kind of ushered in this new era of factory industrial work. I think the most prominent is the steam engine. We have the telegraph, Ford's assembly line, railroads, kind of marine and canal shipping, and then a more efficient process on steel making. And if we look to today, we have autonomous mobility, Tesla self-driving cars, probably in the future, self-flying cars. We have the internet. We're all connected instantly. If I want to get a hold of somebody, it's not because I'm not connected to them. It's probably just because I don't have a relationship with them yet. Robots. What happens in manufacturing when robots begin to build robots that then build everything else for us? We're going to hit some crazy hockey stick moves. Obviously, space exploration and then digital infrastructure. And I think this is kind of the big one that maybe I don't have the best pulse on because there's a lot of technical components that go into this. But I'm looking at these charts and they don't look like they want to go down. So with that said, let's let the charts do the talking. Let the charts speak. This is kind of our itinerary for today. We're going to look at the major indices, sector summaries, kind of semis and big tech, robots, automation, mobility, and digital infrastructure. And you'll start to see how all these kind of intertwine. And that's really, I think, before we look at these charts, that's really what I want to get across, is we're having multiple kind of subsectors within the sectors or industries kind of starting to converge. You know, and when the semiconductors really start taking off and we're building better and faster AI models, those AI models will then be able to train and help build faster autonomous cars, flying cars. We're going to smooth and make our manufacturing process much more efficient. So as we get these little incremental improvements in efficiency and productivity, at some point they're going to stack and they're going to just go. You know, this is non-linear growth, folks. So big picture, I'm recording this on Tuesday, January 21st before the market opens. I'm hoping to get through this before the market opens because it looks like markets are going to pop a little bit on the open after Trump was inaugurated. We'll see if this lasts, see if it sticks. But for my thesis, this is kind of what we're working with. So this is the long-term monthly chart of the S&P 500 going back to 1996. Why 1996? Well, because that was the year I was born. So I want to put into context for myself, like I should have just been buying S&P the day I came out of the womb. Here is our S&P daily chart. And you can see this little candle up here on Friday started to poke its head out. We're making a higher high. Again, we're kind of opening a little bit above this downtrend line, and we'll see if that move sticks. But overall, I mean, these charts are up and to the right. I think that's the common theme that we're going to get here. These are the cues. Same thing. We got a nice little oops move, retest our former highs from the summer of 2024. Now is it time to turn higher? We'll see. Small caps. These are probably the big cautionary tale within the major indices. chronic underperformer. You know, the SPY and the Qs have been breaking out, making new all-time highs for some time now. Small caps, I don't have the longer term chart of this. Of course, I have like 170, but I don't have one of those. Small caps are still below their, 2021, 2022 highs. So we really need to start seeing small caps outperform, kind of catch some of that momentum. We don't necessarily need to see them outperform the Qs and big cap tech, but we need to see them hold, make some new highs, exhibit some relative strength. Let's take a look at the sectors. So this is how I'm looking at the sectors. This is my ranking system. Financials, consumer discretionary, energy, utilities, industrials, technology. Really bodes well for this whole industrial revolution that we're talking about. And the way I rank these sectors is I use kind of an aggregate score that factors in the ETF's proximity to its all-time high, to its 200-day moving average, and to its 50-day moving average. Compile these together, and I get a nice little ranking system. It's not perfect. Nothing's perfect, but you do it long enough and you start to see patterns. That's, I guess, the biggest thing. So here's our financials. Obviously, these are the leading sector. Nice little gap up on this little Trump bump. That was when Trump was elected in November. And notice how the financials, we tested these gaps down here, but now we're breaking higher. Again, these charts are probably going to move up today, Tuesday, January 21st, as the market looks like it's going to gap up to open. Not a huge gap, but just enough. Communications, once again, we have this Trump bump. We never, ever tested this gap from the Trump bump. Oops. So that's really interesting to note. Relative strength in the communications. We expect to see these lead if the market turns higher. Technology. Now, this is kind of one interesting sector that hasn't really been just churning to new highs, which is kind of surprising. Technology is kind of at the heartstone of, in my mind, every single company in the stock market. Like, there's no company publicly traded that is not using technology. So where we want to draw the line of technology, I think, is always weird. That said, if we get above these 240 levels, blue sky for technology. Long term, this is a weekly chart, consumer discretionary. You can see big base. We kind of get this retest, and now we're going to run up. Utilities. Now, the one thing I want to note here is just this bar from last week. This is a weekly chart. Look at that dominating weekly candle on the utilities. I don't think that last week's lows will break down in utilities. Now, I'll be the first to admit if I'm wrong, but seeing price action like that with a candle that strong tends to be kind of that bottoming sign that we're going to continue in the underlying trend, which, if you guys can see, up and to the right. So semis and big tech, we're going to go to big tech first, and I think Tesla is the most important company within this trend. Primarily, Elon has his hands in everything. He's literally over the shoulder of the president of the United States, so he's going to know where every single puck is flying to. He's building rockets. He's building tunnels. He's building autonomous vehicles. He's building robots. If there's going to be somebody who leads us into an industrial revolution, it's probably going to be Tesla. So we want to keep an eye on Tesla. This is the daily chart, kind of making that bottoming pattern. Let's see if I can pull up a little pre-market action of Tesla. I'm going to try and fly through these because, you guys, I have a lot of charts to go through. Tesla looks like it's opening up at 434 and change. So just below kind of Friday's high. So nothing crazy, not a crazy big gap. We're not getting an election type gap or an earnings gap this morning, but it's worthy to note. Pros on the close, though. Never forget. Closing prices matter. Tesla long-term chart looks a lot like that consumer discretionary, which, if you know the holdings, it makes sense. Tesla broke out of its 2021 highs. Had an absolute ripper. We retested. This little consolidation pattern is this retest. Now are we going to resolve higher in the direction of the underlying trend? I don't know. Maybe. I think so. NVIDIA. Hard to bet against NVIDIA. They're literally making the lifeblood of what is going to power. Semiconductors are going to power this entire thing. So we would love to see NVIDIA break out. I don't know if these lows will hold. I don't know if we need another shakeout period. But as you can see, NVIDIA really hasn't gone anywhere for like 6 or 7 months. Long term, obviously, you guys know the drill with NVIDIA. Amazon, beautiful weekly chart, flagging up and to the right. Looks a little bit like Tesla, although it's a little bit higher than its former highs here in 2021. Amazon's off to the races. I love this daily chart. I mean, if that's not a bull flag, like, we need to change the textbook definition of a bull flag. Knock on wood that it resolves higher, but you guys are starting to see the theme, right? You're starting to see the theme. All these charts are looking the same. Google, beautiful flag in Google. Palantir. Now, I kind of snuck Palantir here into the big cap tech category because, frankly, they will probably emerge as a big tech leader within this next kind of leg higher. The primary reason is these guys are intelligence analytics. They have contracts with governments, with major corporations. They have so much data and know how to use this data that they may have solutions to problems we can't even foresee yet. So definitely keep an eye on Palantir. Had an epic year last year. Epic. So I don't know if this year is going to be a strong year, a weak year. It's going to consolidate here. I would love to see, honestly, I don't know if we're going to get it. I would love to see like 6 months of just sideways action in Palantir. I don't think we're going to get that personally, but we'll see. BYD company, Chinese EV maker, kind of that biggest rival to Tesla over in China. Super strong uptrend. You know, they're kind of just grinding lower here, but it seems we may have found a little bit of some bottoming action. And remember, you guys, bottoms are a process. It doesn't just happen. Sometimes it does. Sometimes V bottoms just happen. COVID, crazy V bottoms happen. But most of the time, especially kind of coming out of a long-term consolidation that we have, these bottoming patterns are a process. Long-term chart, BYD looks a lot like Tesla. Not surprising, right? They're working on self-driving vehicles, self-flying vehicles over in China. They probably have the blessing of the CCP. You know, I would think you have to if you're going to operate a company of this size over in China. But what an epic chart. This is a monthly chart going back to its inception. Probably, 2021, 2020, 2011, 2010. Broadcom. We're going to start getting into the semis now. I know we touched on NVIDIA, but NVIDIA is big tech, so now we're going to look a little bit smaller, surface-level semiconductors. Broadcom, beautiful bull flag. Beautiful long-term trend. ARM Holdings, this company went public in Q3, Q4 of 2023. They've had some runs. You know, if you're a swing trader, there's been some really interesting opportunities. This one kind of in the Q2 of last year was really, really beautiful. Gone sideways ever since. Here's that weekly chart. That doesn't look like something that's going to be making new lows. Onto Innovation, another semiconductor play, and what really caught my eye was this price action over the last, really since the beginning of the year. It's had an absolute ripper from 170 up to 220, 50-point move. Now, do I think this thing is going to continue and have another 50-point swing up to 260 without really any sort of a retest? I don't. But if we look at this long-term chart, we just broke out to our dot-com bubble highs here in, 2021? You know, beautiful retest. We made that next leg higher, and here we are in another consolidation period. So going back to this daily chart, I'm going to really look for a clean risk-reward break above this 240 level. Ideally, we get some price action so that we can set our stop to like 225, 230-ish, you know, so we're only risking 10, 15 points versus, if we got into this name, truthfully, we have to risk it down to like 170. So we're risking 50 points in a name that hasn't totally proven itself yet. We got to let this thing tighten up. Robots and automation. So here's the fun stuff. Intuitive Surgical. These guys make literally robots that do surgery. That's probably going to be a bigger trend in the future. In this chart, you can't argue with that. What an absolutely epic move from Intuitive Surgical. Long-term chart, same story. Cadence Design, involved with manufacturing automation. kind of stuck in this little hot mess, if you want to call it that. But our long-term chart, the long-term underlying trend is up and to the right. So we're just looking for this next leg higher. So if we're above this 320 mark, it seems like Cadence Design is going to make some new highs and off to the races. Deere & Co. Now, why are we looking at Deere with robots and automation? Well, what happens when we put robots on our farms and have autonomous tractors driving around on the combines? I don't have enough farming lingo to really make some fun commentary here, but if you're not looking at Deere for autonomous farming machinery, I don't know what you're doing. They're working on it. It's happening. You guys, this trend is rapidly unfolding. You can see wild price action. Looks like earnings day here, right? Nasty retest, and we're back. So this is a 60 point, 60 points on a $400 stock, so 15% flag pattern here that we got going on. Again, this is another name. We're not going to just blindly buy it. We want to wait for that tight consolidation period. But look at this long-term chart of Deere. This thing really hasn't gone anywhere since 2021, if we're being honest. Like, beautiful sideways action. Now we're starting to knock on the door of these new highs. This is when you want to start getting involved. This is when you're going to start to see some really strong momentum thrusts. Caterpillar, similar story, right? They're more in machinery, construction machinery, and that sort of things. But again, autonomous vehicles are going to take over. Robots are going to build, maybe build our roads, but I'm hoping that we're not even building roads by the time robots are on the road. Long-term chart, though, Caterpillar looks very similar to Deere. A little bit stronger. Hasn't had that total sideways action, but we'd expect to see that rock higher. Rockwell Automation, again, similar to Cadence Design Systems. It's kind of this choppy mess, but this long-term chart, we're knocking on the doors of all these uptrends. One thing I really want you guys to notice, a lot of these moves haven't even happened yet. We're still stuck below like multi-month, multi-year bases. So what happens when all these stocks start to break out? Animal spirits is what Stanley Druckenmiller is calling for. Symbotic, these guys are a robot manufacturer here in the United States. They IPO'd, it looks like maybe gone public via SPAC, potentially in 2022. Big move off its IPO base here up in 2023. Nothing really going on, kind of second half of 2023 and pretty much all of 2024. The one notable thing here, though, is this base. We stuck above kind of this base on our IPO high. It's not perfect, right? Obviously, we ticked those prices. They're probably a little bit higher, but we didn't break new lows. So that's really key. Now what we're looking for is we really want to see this stock get above Thursday's gap and close up there and kind of start testing and knocking on the doors of this 36 to 40 range. ABB Limited is a conglomerate in Switzerland. They make robots, automation, all that fun stuff. Very similar to kind of a Caterpillar, Deere. We got this long-term base. We did gap down, but we're kind of starting to emerge. And we're going to talk a lot about some foreign stocks. Switzerland, Germany. ARM is out of the UK. There's some Japanese robotics companies that are really freaking cool. Korean robotics. There's some toll roads, airports from around the world. Needless to say, I know JC Peretz has been talking about a weak dollar. If the dollar weakens, these foreign stocks are going to look a lot more attractive. ABB Limited, long-term 3-month chart. That thing is ready to take off. So this is the daily chart. This is the 3-month chart. If we get this continuation, we're off to the races above like 58 to 61. That's where we're going to be looking to get long. Oops. How many more do I got? I got a lot more. Siemens, automation manufacturer behemoth in Germany, closed at all-time highs on Friday. That is not something you see in the downtrend, by the way. And look at this beautiful base. We had our COVID bottom down here. Big old bottom in 2022 into 2023. Another little whoop-de-doo here at the end of 2023. And we haven't really done too much in 2024, except for now in 2025, all-time highs. Teradyne, again, these guys are all within this automation manufacturing theme, making everything more efficient for us. So Teradyne's looking to close this gap from the summer of 2024. Long-term chart, very similar. We haven't broken out of these bases, you know. Really, these 2021 highs have stuck. You know, we snuck above them in 2020, late 2021, 2022. We snuck above them again here in 2024. We haven't made that, like, sticking move, the move that lasts. Teledyne Technologies. These guys make sensors. You really think sensors aren't going to be a big role in robots? I mean, our nervous system as humans is so incredible. It's going to take a lot of work for us to replicate that and to put it into machines. But Teledyne Technologies, beautiful flag. Here's the daily chart, weekly chart. Again, I'm going to just keep reiterating over and over and over again, we haven't broken out of these highs. Here's the 2022 highs. We're still stuck below them. You know, this is a chart you want to be buying and sticking in your account and not even looking at it for like 18 months to 2 years, because when these moves occur, it's going to be fantastic. Animal spirits, folks. JBT Merrill, very similar story. Very similar story. These guys might even have a better base. This is the monthly chart. You know, 2021, 2022, we tried to make that move. We failed. Is 2025 the year? I kind of think so. So Fanuc, and I could be mispronouncing all of these foreign names. My apologies. These guys are a Japanese robot manufacturer, and I, for one, am not going to bet against. I might not bet for, but I'm not going to bet against Japanese robots. Absolutely hot mess of a chart. Long term, it's a hot mess. But I want us to go back to the comment I briefly made. If the dollar weakens, all these names are going to look great. Now, let's look at this daily chart. This little nasty flush candle here, this was that yen carry crash trade thing that we had. If that's behind us and we got this other little wick, you know, is the selling pressure subsided now that all the sellers are gone and it's just time to buy? Possibly. If the dollar weakens, these charts are going to look a lot more attractive, you guys. These charts are going to look a lot more attractive. And what a base. This is a 14-year base in a Japanese robotics company. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Like, we're getting flying cars, folks. Shenzhen Innovents is a Chinese robotics company. Nice big base. Massive move. I don't even want to know, like, what is this on a percentage basis? This looks like it moved from $6 up to 11, so almost a double there in a week and a half. We're basing, consolidating. Let's see if we can shake and bake to the upside. My guess would be yes, at some point this is going to break higher, just because look at this long-term trend. Up and to the right, you guys. Noticing that theme? Up and to the right. Rainbow Robotics. These guys might win the award for the greatest name of a company. I'm so intrigued. I want to learn everything that I can about these guys. Not only because this chart looks absolutely epic, but they have a great name. Rainbow Robotics. Shout out to the Rainbow Robotics crew out in Korea. They're obviously doing something right. They are crushing it. Highwind Technologies, Industrial Automation, out of Taiwan. Large thrust move to close out the year in 2024. We're going to start to see some of those in kind of more of these speculative names that touch on this space. That's really where my interest got pulled in. That's probably a good thing I should have said maybe, we're 25 minutes into this thing, maybe at like the 24 minutes ago. I probably should have indicated how I kind of stumbled into this trend. The biggest thing was I started noticing the Joby and Archers popping up on the new 52-week high list. And who doesn't want to dream about flying cars? So that was kind of where I started. I worked backwards. Obviously, I'm doing this top-down approach. I ran through a bunch of ETF holdings. I'm seeing what other kind of themes within the market that are adjacent to this theme, because I don't think anyone's really nailed this theme or like figured out what's happening here. So we're all just trying to put the pieces together. Highwind Technologies long-term chart. We haven't made a new high for some time, but I think that will change over the next 18 months to 2 years. Komatsu. These guys are like the probably the Caterpillar, more similar to Caterpillar than Deere of Japan. Yen carry fiasco here. Sideways base. Are we gonna resolve higher? I think so. Look at that base. Like, you really think that chart's gonna go down? I think that's going higher. Estuin. Gosh. I'm bad. Automation, robotics and automation out of China. Once again, this is not the most attractive chart. We're getting a little bit down further on the risk curve. I mean, these guys are still, all these companies I'm looking at are kind of right at that 1 billion and higher mark. Obviously, we have big cap tech, trillion-dollar companies, but we're not looking at any sub-billion-dollar companies. There will be one, and I'll let you guys know where it is. Hans Laser Technology. Nice thrust move, sideways action. Looks like we're going to resolve higher. These guys, again, not the most attractive chart. You know, we've seen much better charts today, but this is that theme. You know, we're looking all to understand the theme, trying to look at these patterns. Harmonic drive systems, absolute ripper into the end of the year. They went from what, like $12 up to 27 to 25, so they doubled in a quick 3 or 4 weeks. And let's look at this long-term chart. Not the best looking long-term chart, I'll be the first to admit, but if this is the oops move, which coincides here with this kind of gap down in November, if this is that oops move, are we just going to scream to new highs? Maybe. If the dollar weakens, it's certainly going to alleviate some pressure. Tenants, gosh, I really hope I'm pronouncing these right. Yen carry crash. We got that oops move at the kind of going into last year. And we're working on this base. This is not a name I want us to be looking at to park capital into. This is a very different looking chart from all the other charts we've looked at. We're looking at the theme. You know, if this name can test 490, what do you think is going to happen to like a Komatsu? You know, that's how I'm thinking about these things. Daifuku, another oops move. Yen crash carry here in August. This is a pretty looking chart. Looks like we're on our way to the next leg higher. THK. These guys specialize in motion mechanics within robotics. Very important. I don't know if you guys look at like Boston Dynamics videos, but if you've watched those over a number of years, you can tell the motor functions of robots is not what it is of humans. Again, our nervous system and like the human body is so incredible. It's going to take a lot of work for us to design something of this intelligence. And this chart is speaking. Massive gap. Big base, testing these former highs from 2024, and it's a bit of a hot mess, but boy, if this thing breaks out, this might see some absolutely epic moves. Cardex, automated logistics, conglomerate out of Switzerland. Daily chart here, weekly chart. Once again, we haven't broken out of our 2021 highs. If the dollar weakens, it's going to alleviate some pressure. We could start to see some next leg higher action in these names. Let's go to mobility. We're going to first start with the airliners. American Airlines, probably the weakest looking airliner. It's still stuck below its COVID highs. And as you can see, it's still stuck below a lot of highs. American Airlines isn't necessarily a name we're going to be jumping to. Delta Airlines, on the other hand, screaming higher. Super incredible strong year in 2024. Gapped higher. What is this, about a week and a half ago? We're holding these levels. We're going to see if this resolves higher. This long-term monthly chart, I can't think of a better place to be hanging out. Just above these COVID highs for Delta Airlines. I'm not betting that these names are going to go lower. I'm not necessarily betting that these names are going to go higher. I'm actually looking a little bit further on the risk curve. But again, this is all this theme. I'm hoping you guys are starting to see this theme. I don't know how else to communicate it. SkyWest, super strong. monthly chart. Notice its proximity to its COVID high, right? I mean, it's up 40 points, 45 points from its COVID high. Delta can't say that. American Airlines can't say that. United Airlines can't even say that. But this is a strong looking chart. Super strong up move, kind of in Q2, Q3, Q4 of 2024. Consolidating at highs. And again, we're kind of above these COVID highs. We haven't made that like big move yet. We could be witnessing the makings of that big move right here. Best name in that space is certainly SkyWest. So next up is Airbus, and we're not going to touch on Boeing because Boeing kind of looks like trash still. So really only looking at charts that are somewhat attractive. I could be foolish for not taking in Boeing, but let's take a look at Airbus here. Big base, little base, and we're trying to break out. We go to our weekly chart. We're trying to break out. Like this is, we're retesting. These are like 140 highs for COVID. So we're retesting. We managed to get above those levels. Now we're just grinding higher. But this is that 3-month quarterly chart of Airbus. And if this thing breaks out and resolves higher, I don't see us, just kind of making a short move up. Like there's going to be a move that sticks here. And I would love to see innovation in aviation. Next up, we're going to take a look at some toll roads. Now, I'm not necessarily wanting to look at toll roads in all these foreign countries to say, let's go buy Chinese communist toll roads. But we're looking at the theme. If these toll roads are breaking out, what is happening in transportation, innovation, mobility, all these things? What is happening? That's what I'm trying to wrap my head around. I don't have all the answers. Don't act like I have all the answers. I'm trying to make sense of it just like anyone else. Chinese Hong Kong toll road breaking out to new highs. This is the monthly chart. If this was a tech stock, I would certainly want to buy this, but it's a toll road. So another Chinese toll road, nice base, wild action here. I mean, maybe we should be trading toll roads if they're trading like this. And another nice big base. Auckland International Airport, nice base here. And we're just getting this sideways action. Now, I don't know what the ramifications are if these airports start breaking out. Because here's an airport in Mexico. I think this services maybe Centro Norte. So is that Central North Mexico? Please let me know if I'm totally butchering that. I'm not even going to try and pronounce this. JC could get it, with his Cuban background, but I'm from Colorado. I'm just a small town kid from a mountain town. Not very cultured in my upbringing. So another Mexican airport. Swiss airport. This is the airport in Zurich. Basing action. Look at that long-term chart. We're above those, 2018 highs? I don't know what happens if these airports break out. I don't know if we're going to see a gnarly rip higher. We very well could. Again, you guys, we're going to this theme. That's all I'm trying to get to here. China merchant ports. These guys control some of the largest ports in China. Hong Kong. And if I had to guess, the first fully autonomous port that we'll see in the world will not be in the United States. So that's how I'm kind of keeping an eye on this thing. And as you can see, we're kind of working on this big base going back 6-7 years. What an absolutely epic move here in Archer. Now this is where I'm kind of parking my capital. And this is not a recommendation. This is me being a little bit of a wild, crazy, delusional optimist. But I want to see flying cars. Also, this move that occurred in November cannot be ignored. I don't have the chart with the volume up here, but I would recommend and challenge you guys after... Actually, pause this. Pause this right now and go look at the volume on this chart. Why don't we just do that? Why do I need to pause anything? Let's just do that. We're gonna take a look at the volume. because this is so significant, especially when you're looking at kind of new emerging industries. You need the confirmation to come, and that is volume. So this is the monthly chart. Look at these volume bars, you guys. This is what piques my interest, right? We still obviously need to make above. We'll go back here. We still need to make it above these SPAC highs. That's what this purple line is like our SPAC price, $10. So we need to make it above there. But those volume candles, man, if that many buyers came in, I just don't think they're going to go away. You know, I think they're going to keep coming back. We'll see, though. This is our weekly chart. Again, we're right at this inflection point with these SPAC prices. This is to me the biggest heuristic. Joby Aviation, very similar. Not as relatively strong as Archer. But again, we're flirting with these SPAC pricing. You know, when you're buying an IPO base, which a SPAC base is basically the same thing, the most bullish thing you can see is a nice tight consolidation just right above its IPO price. Like, that is so ripe to rip. That's what we're looking for. We might not get that perfectly. Maybe this time we get that consolidation period just below the SPAC price, the IPO price. That's fine. That's okay. You know, none of these charts are going to be perfect. Now, I did mention we have one sub-billion-dollar market cap company, and that is Serve Robotics. They're like $850, $900 million market cap, on their way to be $1 billion market cap. These guys make little delivery robots that go around ASU's campus, or, you know, I think they have a partnership now with Sweet Green to deliver salads to people. They're cute. They're like these little cars that just like go down the road. Although I did see a video of a Waymo crashing into a Serve Robotics, and like neither one of these robots had any clue what to do. Like, they were both just like sitting there with their lights on. Pretty great. You can't argue with that chart, though. That's a daily chart, by the way. Garmin, GPS and mapping. If we're getting more advanced with mobility, you know, we are going to have to know every square centimeter of this planet. You know, and not just the surface level data. We're going to need to know below. You know, LiDAR is going to come into play. We're going to need to really have a strong understanding of air currents if we're going to have more flying cars. So all these sensors and kind of GPS systems, they're going to get improved. This might be one of the most bullish charts out there, though. Look at that thing. Clearly above those 2021 highs. You know, we've talked about some of these charts not above their 2021 highs. Garmin is above its 2021 high and flagging at all-time highs. Not a chart you see in a downtrend. Rocket Lab US, these guys are going to space, and this chart is literally taking off. I mean, we went from, this was like $5 here in August, up to $20 before the end of the year. You know, that's not grandma and grandpa buying. I can guarantee that. If you look at volume, it's probably very similar to those Archer Joby charts that we're seeing. And here's the weekly chart, well above its listing highs. You know, love to see that. Wouldn't mind to see this name consolidate for another 6 months before taking that next leg higher. Because, I mean, this thing literally went from $4 to $20, a 5x in 6 months. Not bad. Aurora Innovation, self-driving, not the strongest looking chart, probably because Tesla just crushes everybody in this space. But again, it's this theme, you guys. It's this theme. All these charts are having a very similar pattern price action. Now, where they may differ is the volatility and how quickly they're appreciating or being able to get above highs or not. But like, again, if we were to look at all of these charts and kind of look at a 6-month performance, I bet you all of these things are screaming up and to the right. I mean, there's going to be a few outliers, obviously, that aren't, but Ryder Systems, Innovative Logistics, look at these guys. You really think they're gonna let Amazon drone deliveries and Zipline take their lunch? I don't think so. Like, these guys aren't going to die. The chart's saying that. Just off at all-time highs. Mega chart. Airport Logistics, these guys do, like, the baggage conveyor belts. You know, they move baggage around airports based out of Singapore. Talk about an industry ripe for automation. Also just We're not even going to get into that. We're not getting into the travel experience, none of that. We're not talking any of that. So again, this is SATs here one more time. These guys are listed on the Singaporean exchange S58. Large base here. These highs are going back to 2027. We still haven't broken above them. COVID crash. Never made it above COVID highs. We're getting there. We're testing it. If the dollar weakens and this trend continues, I don't think we're going to see new lows from SATs. I think it's more likely we're going to see new highs. Digital infrastructure. Uber's probably one of the most interesting ones just because they've kind of laid some of the digital infrastructure for a neural network within transportation that we've never seen before. Weak chart, this might be one of the weakest charts that we have in the deck, but from a long-term perspective, this thing has held up well. Now, is Tesla going to eat their lunch? Is Waymo going to eat their lunch? Are these flying taxis going to eat their lunch? I mean, I know they have partnerships with Joby and stuff like that, but we'll have to see. Uber's not a rushing buy, but again, we're looking at this theme. Autodesk. These guys work on 3D designing engineering software. If you're building buildings and flying cars and new machines and stuff like that, you probably need a really good understanding of how the engineering comes together. 3D rendering plays a big role in that. If we have ChatGPT creating images for us, how far until we have ChatGPT building skyscrapers for us? That's kind of the way I'm thinking. This chart, testing those lows. Looks like we're on our way higher. Look at this beauty. Look at this beauty. Again, stuck below our 2021, 22 highs. Tested those levels. We failed, which is so beautiful to see, right? We want to fail and stick, and it looks like we kind of sticked last week. We might have had that oops move, stuck last week. Now we're looking for that break of, what is this, about 330? ANSYS. These guys make simulation software for pretty much every kind of subcategory within this industrial revolution space. Transportation, aviation, automation. If you need something simulated, I'm sure these guys could probably figure it out for you. Hot mess on the daily chart. This weekly chart, even more so of a mess in my mind. But look at a series of higher lows, still stuck below those 2021, 2022 highs. CrowdStrike. We're going to touch on a few web security names because obviously the more we move into this digital industrial revolution, web security is going to be of the utmost importance, especially if flying cars are autonomous. We need to make sure those networks are secure to no nefarious players. CrowdStrike breaking out. It had its little disaster earlier last year, with I believe it was a pretty serious data breach. And we just climbed out of that, knocking on the door of new highs. Cloudflare, not to be confused with CrowdStrike. Cloudflare, let's go web security name, at new high, at set of higher highs. These guys really, though, they're still stuck well below their 2021 highs. Could play catch up, maybe not. I'm typically more in the camp of I would rather buy a stock on the verge of a breakout to new all-time highs than something that I think is going to play catch up. Some people like to play these catch up names because they're like, oh, well, its all-time high was 200. So from 117 to 200, I have 83 points to capture. In my mind, if I'm buying CrowdStrike and I'm buying it above 380, I'm not going to limit my upside. This thing could go to 1,000. I have no idea. And that's not to say Cloudflare can't do the same, but I would be very surprised if it gets to this 200 level and doesn't experience some sort of a shakeout. GitLab, software sandbox, kind of open source software space. These guys kind of making this big IPO base. They went public in 2021. Not the time to go public. They got crushed, and they're starting to build a base. Here's a higher high at the beginning of 2024. Now we're just looking for confirmation of that, and it looks like we have kind of a multiple time frame flagging process occurring. Pure storage, data infrastructure, Beautiful high and tight flag at all-time highs. Notice this name's well above those 2021 highs. Western Digital. This isn't the best looking chart, but just give me a second. Data storage play. They've been around forever. I think this was probably my first external hard drive that I bought. This is a 3-month chart going back to 1973. Look at this consolidation period since 2014. You guys, this is now what, 11 years in the making? What happens if Western Digital breaks out? And I'm not saying go buy Western Digital. I'm saying what happens to the rest of these stocks that we've been looking at if Western Digital breaks out? You got to expect some epic moves by some other names. Applied Digital, again, stuck below those 2021, 2022 highs, but we're making moves. Credo Technology, one of the best names out of 2024, chronically underfollowed on StockTwits too. High and tight. SimilarWeb, Analytics and Intelligence out of Israel, churning higher. And it needs to. Again, this name went public in 2021. Not the best year to take companies public. It got crushed, built that base, and it's working its way out of it. Celestica, absolute monster. Absolute monster. It's above its dot-com bubble highs. Like the most epic rally I've seen in a very long time. Going from what, like $15 to $115 in a few years? I mean, absolute monster. And then Reddit. I think this might be my last name, yeah. So I got in just in time. So my last name here with Reddit, the primary reason is information highway, right? The Telegraph we saw was a critical piece to the Industrial Revolution, the first go-ahead. And in my mind, Reddit is the place, along with like GitHub and kind of those software sandboxes that we were talking about, the open software sandboxes where people can collaborate. Reddit's where a lot of ideas go that are pushing the needle, is what I've noticed. This is just kind of my own personal heuristic. I don't use Facebook unless it's the marketplace, and I'm just so reluctant to use it. We really need to get marketplace away from Facebook personally. But Twitter is kind of just a clusterfuck. I love Twitter. I've built an incredible network using Twitter. I have a blast with Twitter. But I really think like revolutionary ideas where like kids are going to be tinkering in their garages, they're posting this shit on Reddit. Like that's where that cohort lives, and this chart is screaming the same. So out of all the social media platforms, obviously like Google and Meta are interesting. I probably wouldn't want to bet against Meta, but YouTube will have its thing. Reddit's an interesting player. Also, if they're using all these social media apps to train AI, again, it just makes these data companies holding all this data so much more valuable. And that's really where I'm at. I'm looking at the automated and autonomous industrial revolution. So I hope this kind of helped you guys through my process. Please hit me with any questions. I don't know the next time I'm necessarily going to go out and do one of these videos because this was a lot. I got to tip my hat off to you, JC, for doing this every single month. You're a rock star. Godspeed.